hero stumbles, will the cowards rejoice? Nothing feels better to a coward than to watch a brave guy fall.
Take your time.
There's nothing to hide. I know there's not, because I've seen what the case is built on.
The moment Dave Chappelle stepped into the conversation about Erika Kirk and the controversy around Charlie, everything flipped in real time. For months, people had been circling around this whole situation, trying to understand why the person closest to the chaos kept stepping back and refusing to speak. Erika built a reputation for being outspoken, polished, and always ready to defend anything connected to her circle. Yet when Charlie's tragedy hit the world, she disappeared into silence. That silence turned into its own mystery, and every week people kept asking the same question: why is she avoiding this? But then Dave walked on stage, dropped one smooth line without even raising his voice, and the whole culture froze like he just revealed the missing piece of a puzzle. Dave didn't yell, didn't accuse, didn't even call her out directly. He simply pointed toward the silence itself, which made everybody realize how strange it really looked. When a legend like Dave notices something, nobody brushes it off. That's why his words hit harder than anything said online in months, because he isn't part of political drama. He isn't running in those influencer circles, and he doesn't usually touch topics like these. So when he casually asked why someone wouldn't be transparent, the whole situation suddenly felt twice as serious.
Hey, we're going to be doing about 5 more episodes a week now, so just tell the team and make sure that happens.
3 hours of this, 2 more hours of...
It's like, lady, wasn't your husband just publicly executed only a couple of weeks ago? I've never had this much joy on...
Viewers started rewinding the clip, trying to figure out if he meant what they thought he meant, because the way he said it made it sound like someone finally cracked open a door that had been locked for too long. And the crowd reaction showed exactly how ready people were to hear it. They'd been sitting on quiet doubt for months, and Dave's joke was the spark that lit everything up instantly. Online communities from every angle jumped on that moment. Political TikTok, commentary channels, Reddit threads, podcast hosts, all saying the same thing. He said what everybody else tiptoed around. And the wildest part is that Dave didn't even dive into the details. He just pointed out the silence, and that alone shook the conversation like a storm hit the room. Suddenly, people weren't just asking where Erika stood. They started wondering why she stayed silent even when the chaos kept growing louder every week. And once Dave highlighted that silence, it stopped being invisible. It became a question by itself, a question everybody had been scared to ask until he made it impossible to ignore.
Would Charlie have forgiven his killer?
He's in heaven.
After Dave's clip started circulating, people began digging deeper than ever before. And that's where things got even stranger. Viewers went back through Erika's old interviews, panels, podcasts, speeches, everything she'd ever said publicly, looking for any moment where she addressed anything surrounding Charlie. And every time they checked, they found the same exact thing. Carefully chosen words, controlled tone, polite delivery, but not a single direct comment on the one topic everybody expected her to acknowledge. People noticed how she always found a way to redirect the conversation the second it got close, almost like she trained herself to dodge without missing a beat. That perfectly polished silence became its own pattern, and before Dave spoke on stage, nobody questioned it out loud. But after his comment, viewers saw something different. They saw intention. As conversations spread online, voices from every political angle stepped into the discussion. Conservative creators, liberal commentators, independent analysts, everyone wanted to understand what Dave was really pointing toward. Some argued that he was simply calling out the obvious, something people already felt but didn't know how to express. Others believed Dave was hinting at a bigger issue, the way certain narratives stay protected in public spaces while others get dissected nonstop. Some creators defended Erika, saying she might be choosing silence to prevent the situation from spiraling even further. They suggested she might not have enough information, or maybe the weight of the moment made her step back to avoid speaking without clarity.
It gave assurance to people that Turning Point USA is continuing, and it is. I mean, we are so blessed to have more work than we even could ever dream of. I mean, it's beautiful, and Turning Point Action, full steam ahead. I was there from the beginning of all of it.
But you want to hear something even more insane? Erika is now using the same security team that was protecting Charlie the day he was shot. Let that sink in. The very same bodyguard who was supposed to keep Charlie alive on September 10th is now guarding Erika.
If you were the wife of somebody who literally was publicly executed, and there was a detail that was charged with providing security from them, and they didn't clear a roof, the only roof that would have technically been in the clear line of sight of Charlie, and they literally put him into a kill box, and they allowed him to get executed, and then they completely failed at their job. Why, in what world, what reality would you ever be contracting those exact same security guards to protect you?
But even the people defending her had to admit this silence grew heavier over time. And once Dave pointed to it, it was like shining a spotlight on a locked door. Not accusing, just raising a question nobody could look away from. Then came the other side of the debate, the ones saying the silence wasn't caution, it was convenience. They believed that silence protected an image, not a situation. These voices argued that Erika has always been skilled at staying present in conversations without revealing anything real. And now that Dave brought attention to that pattern, fans started seeing those polished interviews differently. Clips resurfaced of Erika smiling through questions, switching topics smoothly and keeping her answers safe and controlled. After Dave's comment, those clips didn't feel natural anymore. They felt calculated, like she already knew exactly what she wouldn't touch no matter what the question was. What made everything even more intense was that Dave didn't speak like someone trying to expose her. He spoke like someone who noticed something unsettling and just put it on the table. And that's what shook people the most. If someone as sharp and observant as Dave noticed the silence, then maybe the silence wasn't accidental at all.
Why not be transparent? There's nothing to hide. I know there's not, because I've seen what the case is built on. Let everyone see what true evil is. This is something that could impact a generation and generations to come.
As the internet kept dissecting Dave's words, another detail resurfaced and sent the conversation in a completely new direction. Erika is now using the same security team that was protecting Charlie the day he lost his life. That revelation created shockwaves because people couldn't wrap their minds around it. Viewers started replaying that moment from the video where someone questioned how a spouse would ever hire the same team that failed to protect their partner. That question became one of the biggest talking points online because if someone believed the team didn't secure the area properly, then why would they trust that same team with their own safety afterward? Commentators said it made the situation feel like there were deeper layers behind the scenes. Of course, nobody accused Erika of wrongdoing, but people wanted to understand the logic behind that decision. The moment viewers realized the same security personnel were still in the picture, the debates got even more heated. Some people argued that Erika might trust them because they know the full details of the investigation. Others argued she might not have chosen them directly, saying organizations often have contracts that continue automatically. But there were also loud voices online who felt like that decision created more questions than answers. And every time those questions appeared, Dave's words started echoing behind them. Not because he accused anyone, but because he pushed people to look closer at the details surrounding the whole.
So on September 2nd, which is, of course, just 1 week before he lost his life, Charlie surprised the company by announcing that he was putting together a DOGE department. Yes, a Department of Government Efficiency like Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy had set out to do. Trump won. They got behind him, right? They said, hey, there's a lot of pork. We don't know where this money is going. People are just accepting checks. Again, this is the whole purpose of the Department of DOGE. You put us in there, and we're going to figure out how all of these bureaucrats are just wasting tax dollars. Really kind of a nice way of saying we're going to conduct an audit of the government, right? That's the only way to look at what DOGE was. It's an audit, and then you cut the fat, and you see where the money's actually going.
What caught many viewers off guard was how fast this topic spread. This wasn't some small controversy anymore. It turned into a national conversation. Political figures, analysts, investigators, journalists, and millions of viewers All jumped into the conversation like they were trying to solve a puzzle piece by piece. And the more people talked, the more attention moved back to the silence, not the details themselves. That's what made Dave's voice so powerful here. He didn't speak on the politics. He didn't speak on the investigation. He didn't make any claims. He simply questioned why the person closest to the situation refused to speak publicly, even as the rest of the world kept demanding clarity. Once that question landed, everything surrounding the incident started getting re-examined. People began noticing how certain topics were pushed while others were sidestepped completely. They noticed who spoke loudly and who stayed out of sight. That contrast opened a new layer to the whole story, not about guilt or innocence, but about control. Control over information, control over narrative, and control over public perception. And every time someone tried to answer that question, Dave's voice echoed again because he had turned silence itself into a clue.
Then there arrived a moment when Charlie felt that the money was disappearing. He felt that, again, according to sources, that the company was burning through cash too quickly. And Charlie set about finding out why and how this was happening. But it goes.
As people kept digging, another twist resurfaced. Charlie had reportedly been looking into financial issues shortly before everything happened. According to sources discussed in the video, he believed money was disappearing and he wanted to figure out why. He questioned how funds were being used, how quickly things were being spent, and what was happening inside the company. This detail added a whole new tension to the conversation. People started wondering whether this investigation created pressure around him and how it connected to everything that happened afterward. But once again, the strongest reaction wasn't about the financial questions. It was about the silence around them. Viewers scanned through every public appearance Erika made after Charlie spoke about those concerns, but once again, nothing was said. That pattern kept repeating itself, and Dave's clip made everyone look at it differently. Instead of seeing silence as grief, people started seeing it as strategy. Creators who studied political communication pointed out how polished Erika's responses always were. They said she speaks like someone trained to dodge messy topics while appearing warm and composed. Clips from old panels showed her answering questions with broad, uplifting statements that never touched the specifics people wanted to hear. After Dave's moment, those clips looked like rehearsed routines. Some viewers started saying things like, "She dodges like she's reading off a script." Others claimed she mastered the art of saying something without actually revealing anything. Whether those claims were fair or not, the pattern became the center of the conversation. And when silence looks intentional, it changes how the world interprets everything else. The reactions online became louder than ever. Some saying Dave opened a door that should have stayed closed, and others saying he opened the door people were too scared to touch. But the power of Dave's influence made it impossible to ignore the impact he created. His voice changed the tone of the entire conversation. Commentators who had stayed quiet suddenly started speaking because once a cultural heavyweight mentioned something, everyone listens. People on TikTok dissected the silence. Podcast hosts built entire episodes around it. Reddit threads stretched into thousands of comments. Even political analysts who usually ignore comedy weighed in because Dave isn't just a comedian. He's someone whose words shape public conversation. After his comment, the narrative grew a new layer. Not about the event itself, but about how information gets controlled around influential families and public figures. Dave didn't expose anything, he exposed attention, where it goes, where it doesn't, and why silence sometimes speaks louder than a statement. By the time the dust settled, Dave Chappelle's single moment on stage had reshaped the entire conversation around Erika Kirk in a way nobody expected. Before his comment, the story had been floating across the internet in pieces. Speculation here, questions there, concerns buried under layers of confusion and debate. But once Dave mentioned transparency, all those loose threads suddenly pulled together like people were finally seeing the full picture they'd been trying to understand for months. And the culture responded instantly. Viewers who never cared about political drama started listening. People who didn't follow the story at all suddenly wanted every detail. Dave made the situation impossible to ignore, not because he accused Erika, but because he made silence impossible to defend without explanation. That's the real impact of his words. He shifted the perspective of millions of people with one calm, measured question. And once that question entered the public conversation, nothing sounded the same afterward. Every old clip of Erika avoiding the topic looked sharper. Every interview where she redirected the conversation suddenly felt intentional. Every event where she stayed silent on Charlie stood out like a flashing light. Commentators said Dave didn't expose a person, he exposed a pattern. And once a pattern is exposed, public trust changes. This wasn't about blame, it wasn't about guilt, it wasn't about conspiracy, it was about awareness. The awareness that silence from the one person closest to the situation shaped the narrative more than any public statement ever could. That's why Dave's moment hit the way it did. It wasn't loud, messy, or dramatic. It was subtle, the kind of subtle that leaves the room breathless, the kind of subtle that forces everybody to rethink what they thought they understood. After months of confusion, his words created clarity. Not answers, clarity. Clarity that there are missing pieces. Clarity that the silence itself is part of the story. Clarity that the person with the closest connection to the moment refuses to step into the conversation for reasons nobody fully understands. Whether Erika's silence is caution, grief, protection, or strategy, one fact remains undeniable. Dave took something quiet and made the entire world look at it directly. And once millions of people start paying attention to a silence that large, the story surrounding it becomes bigger than anything one person can control. If you enjoyed this deep breakdown, make sure to like and subscribe for more stories just like this.